ISIS claims responsibility for the attacks in Kabul that killed at least 25 people on Monday, many of them journalists. Officials calling the bombings an attack on the global media. Benjamin Hall, live with the latest from London. Benjamin.
Yeah, hi, John. This was the deadliest day for journalists around the world since the Charlie Hebdo attacks in 2015. But sadly, it was not the only attack in Afghanistan yesterday, and one of the others, an American soldier, was also killed. And this is a reminder of the increasing pace of attacks being carried out both by the Taliban and ISIS in that country. Well, the first attack, that major one, happened in Kabul at 8 a.m. in the morning. 25 were dead and 45 wounded, 9 journalists among them, some working for major international agencies. It happened in a heavily fortified district near NATO headquarters and embassies, and is a reminder of the lack of security in the Afghan capital and in Afghanistan itself. The first bomber blew himself up at the headquarters of the Afghan intelligence services, but the second, dressed and posing as a cameraman, waited till journalists arrived on the scene, walked amongst them, before then blowing himself up and targeting them. Also yesterday in eastern Afghanistan, one U.S. soldier was killed in a combat operation along with several Afghan troops. At this point, little else is known about that case. In Kandahar, 8 Romanian soldiers assigned to NATO were also killed in a car bomb that left 11 children dead at a school. And in Khost, a BBC reporter was also shot and killed. U.S. and Afghan forces have ramped up attacks and airstrikes against the Taliban and ISIS, but they remain strong. Taliban fighters are now openly active in at least 3/4 of the country. And just last week, the Taliban announced the start of their spring offensive now that the weather is changing, and they have said that they will target U.S. troops specifically. But we know the U.S. is also beefing up their presence in the country, sending over hardware from Iraq and Syria, so we expect the coming months to be bloody, to say the least. John?
Benjamin Hall in London. Thank you.
So those deadly attacks, more proof that the war in Afghanistan is far from over. But will it change U.S. strategy? General Jack Keane is a retired 4-star general, former vice chief of staff of the U.S. Army, chairman of the Institute for the Study of War, and a Fox News senior strategic analyst. Thank you so much, General Keane, for talking to us. Is Afghanistan in jeopardy of being lost?
No, I don't think so. You know, our strategy there, certainly, that President Trump came in and made a decision to make a commitment to Afghanistan and not to establish a timetable and to stick with it. And we've increased our troops there somewhat, and supposedly we're going to put pressure on the Pakistanis to give up the safe havens that they're providing for the Taliban. I really haven't seen that take place yet. But I think, you know, just to be frank about it, Julie, I think it's largely a defensive strategy, because what we're trying to do is not lose. And that's the direction we were moving in when Obama pulled out all of the forces. And even when we were succeeding, when General Petraeus and McChrystal were in charge,
right,
he gave them 25% less of the forces that they wanted. But even with that, they had turned the tide. But then President Obama pulled all of those forces out prematurely. So that's why we're here right now. But now there's no political will in our country to put those forces back in and do what needs to be done. So our strategy is considerably more defensive.
Yeah, I mean, I know the U.S. is not there to win, but President Trump, as you know, doesn't like to lose, especially when it comes to terrorists. So what is the outcome if the U.S. were to pull out of Afghanistan, or do we send troops back in? I mean, it is a controversial decision, but one that needs to be done. Otherwise, this war really never will end. It's been going on for 4 decades, practically.
Yeah, I think likely the president's instincts are pulling at him here. You know, probably, as he said about Syria, his instincts are to kind of cut our losses and just pull out of here. But that would be a huge strategic mistake, because what you're just exposing to the American people will quadruple. ISIS will have a safe haven in Afghanistan. The Taliban are not going to go outside the region, not going to go outside Afghanistan, not going to attack other people. They want to take control of their country like they had before. But they will tolerate other radical Islamist groups, as they did al-Qaeda prior to 9/11, to come into that country and establish safe havens. That's the danger and the threat and the problem we have if we don't stay the course. So,
you know, for those who are opposed to the war and the U.S. involvement there, I mean, you take a look at this latest gruesome attack. At least 25 people were killed, and specifically journalists were targeted. 9 journalists, including a famous Afghan photographer, Shah Marai, who worked for the French news agency AFP, and he leaves behind 6 children, including a 2-week-old baby girl. He was the sole breadwinner in his family. He's worked for more than 15 years documenting this war in Afghanistan. I mean, if the goal isn't to win in Afghanistan, many would wonder and question, why are we still there then?
Well, as I said, I think the reason is because the security of the American people. It will become a safe haven for international terrorists, and they will prey on Europe and they'll prey on ourselves. Now, I do think there is a way to turn the momentum to our favor, and that is we have got to shut down the safe havens that the Taliban have. There's 2 of them inside of Pakistan, and we have not done that yet. We said we were going to do it, but we have not done it.
More
and the
pressure needs to be
Pakistanis
put on Pakistan. I mean, they need to stand up to the plate.
Yeah, I mean, taking their money away from their aid is not going to do anything to them, because they'll get it from China. I think we should sanction their leaders and identify the chief of staff of their military, you know, and the chief of their intelligence service, and sanction them internationally. And then if they don't shut these safe havens down, then I think we should physically shut them down. That is what we should tell them. It should have been done a long time ago.
Send a message, that's for sure. All right, General Jack Keane, great to see you as always. Thank you.
Good talking to you.